Hi guys, this is Namrata Apte. I'm the legal faculty of Career Launcher. And in today's video, I will be discussing with all of you something which is very important for all your law exam preparation, which is fundamental rights. Now, as you can see here, fundamental rights are basically there mentioned in part third of Constitution of India. Now, before I get into the details of it, what exactly are fundamental rights? Fundamental rights are the most basic and natural rights as we enjoy, as a citizen of this country. Now, some of these fundamental rights are even available to foreigners, so it doesn't matter where you are from, which race you are from. These are rights which all of us should just expect to have. So now let's begin from the very beginning, and I'm going to discuss all the fundamental rights in depth with you. So, part third of the Constitution, from starting from Article 12 to Article 35, deals with everything pertaining to fundamental rights. Article 12, which is not exactly mentioned here, but let me write it down. Article 12 mentions the definition of the word state. Now, in the context of fundamental rights, state is not just like your state of Delhi or Maharashtra or Madhya Pradesh. State basically refers to government or government authority or any organization which is funded, administered, and managed by the government. Now, why do we need to know this definition? Because your fundamental rights are enforceable only against the government. So, what that exactly means is that you cannot sue a private party for the violation of your fundamental rights. However, you can sue any government or government organization, as I just mentioned, for the violation of your fundamental rights. That's why you will see that, convent schools or madrasas or gurukuls, these are private institutions, but when it comes to government schools, they remain religion neutral because the government schools, colleges, hospitals, they also fall under the definition of the word state under Article 12 of the fundamental rights. Now, starting from the first fundamental right, it is called right to equality, okay, which is mentioned from Article 14 to Article 18. Right to equality means that everybody is equal in the eyes of the law. Okay, there is no discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. But having said that, okay, before actually I continue with this whole lecture on fundamental rights, one thing actually I should absolutely mention is that none of our fundamental rights are absolute in nature. That means the government can impose reasonable restrictions upon our fundamental rights. Okay. So, for instance, just because we have a right to movement doesn't mean that the government cannot enforce some kind of restriction on it as and when required. Like, during lockdown, the government told us that, you guys can't just step out of your house. You can't be out and about. You can't move around. That's because that was the need of the hour. Okay. So, that similarly, here I am telling you guys that there can be no discrimination based on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth, etc. But even then, we have reservations in colleges and other, educational institutes. Why do we have that? Because that actually is not unconstitutional. That is something called with some. That is something which is called positive discrimination. Basically, this reservation, the concept of reservation came into existence because of very deep rooted casteism and class system in India. So even though when we became independent and when our constitution came into existence, we had all these shiny new fundamental rights, but not everybody was at the same level to be able to enjoy those fundamental rights. So the reason behind introducing this reservation was that we wanted to bring everybody up to the level where they're able to enjoy the fundamental rights as they are meant to be enjoyed. That is why the reservation that we see, it's not illegal, it is something which is for the benefit of the people. Continuing, when it comes to right to equality, basically everybody has to have equal opportunity in public employment. We have obviously abolished untouchability. We do not follow that strict caste system anymore where, some classes, castes were considered to be better than the others. That does not exist. We have, very strict laws against it. We have also abolished titles. We don't have anything, we don't have a royal family, we don't have any actual Maharajas or Rai Bahadurs or Nawabs. Even if in the name they have those titles, legally speaking, they don't mean anything and everybody is equal in the eyes of the law. So, this is all about your right. This is a brief glimpse into, in fact, your right to equality. Okay. Moving forward, the next right is Article 19, which is right to freedom. Under this particular fundamental right, six basic freedoms have been granted to us. First one being freedom of speech and expression. Within reasonable within reasonable limitations, we have a right to express ourselves. We have a right to an opinion. We have a right to express that opinion. We have a right to publish it, but we have to do it in a respectful manner. In the name of freedom of speech and expression, for instance, we can't instigate violence in the country. We cannot basically give a hate speech. We can't defame people, right? So we have to use this freedom in a reasonable manner. The next one is freedom of assembly. When five or more people gather together, it's called an assembly. Okay. Now, as long as you are being peaceful, as long as everything is lawful, all of us have a right to assemble and meet whoever we want, and we don't need a special government's permission every time that we do that. The next one is freedom to form association. As an individual, if you want to join a union or an organization or you don't want to join one, the choice is yours, the decision is yours. The government cannot force you to do either of the things against your will. They can't force you to join. They can't stop you from joining as well if you want to, right? Because this is a choice that you get to make. The next one is freedom of movement. Within the territory of India, we can move wherever we want. Every time that you do so, you don't need a visa, you don't need a permission from the government. It is your call, it depends upon your need, it depends upon your want, and you can move wherever you want. The next one is freedom to reside and to settle. Similar to freedom of movement, of course, if you're moving somewhere and if you want to settle down in a new place or various places over the course of time, you can do that. This is a freedom which is afforded to all the citizens. The next one is freedom of profession, occupation, trade, or business. Basically, the profession that you want to pursue, the occupation that you want to have, the trade that you want to start, or the business that you want to start, that is your choice. Okay. It is not decided for you at your birth anymore. That, oh, Brahmins will study or they will do, a particular kind of job, or Kshatriyas will do a particular kind of job. Those kind of limitations are redundant in today's day and age. Now, next article is protection in respect of conviction for offences. So, as is abundantly clear, this particular article deals with certain protections which are granted to us against criminal law of the country, against conviction for certain offences. Okay, not certain offences, it's the way they go about the whole thing. This is a very important thing. This might be a little confusing. So, I hope you guys understand my explanation. The first protection granted under this article is protection against ex post facto laws. What this particular law says is that no person shall be convicted of any offense except for violation of a law in force at the time of the commission of the act, nor subjected to a penalty greater than the prescribed form prescribed by the law in force at the time of the commission of the act. This sounds a little intimidating, a little confusing, but if you break it down, it's actually very simple and it's very sensible. Like it makes perfect sense, to be honest. What they are trying to say is that if I'm doing something today, like for instance, if I'm making this video right now, which is a perfectly legal thing to do, but 2 years down the line, suppose if making videos becomes illegal, so the police cannot arrest me for my acts of 2024 in the year 2026 because you can't go back in time. You can't convert an act into a crime in retrospect. Similarly, if somebody is committing a crime for which suppose the punishment is 5 years, so when they commit the crime, the punishment is 5 years. While the trial is going on, the punishment is increased from 5 to 10 years. You can't subject them to a greater penalty, okay? Because at the time when they committed the crime, the punishment was 5 years. So now you can't send this person to jail for 10 years. The real life example of this can be Nirbhaya gang rape case. Those of you who are aware of that case would know that one of the culprits in Nirbhaya gang rape case was a minor. He claimed to be 17-year-old, which was also proven correct in the court of law. So when he committed that grotesque crime of raping and murdering that poor girl, basically when his trial was going on, so the law for juveniles is juveniles are people under the age of 18. So the law at that point of time was if any person under the age of 18 commits a crime, that person will be tried under juvenile justice system That means they cannot be subjected to serious punishments the way adults are. So when that particular case happened, and that guy was being tried for his involvement in that rape and murder case, the lawmakers changed the law and they said that from the age of 16 to 18, if any juvenile commits a crime which is heinous in nature, like murder, rape and murder, etc., then that person will not be tried as a minor or a juvenile. That person would be tried as an adult. So this was the change which happened in the law while that gang rape case was going on. However, lawmakers or the courts could not apply this new punishment of being tried as an adult on that guy from Nirbhaya gang rape case, because that would have meant that they are violating his fundamental right, because they are increasing his punishment in retrospect. I hope this point was clear to everybody. Now the next protection is protection against double jeopardy. No person can be prosecuted and punished for the same offense more than once. Now, some people might think that prosecution and punishment are the same thing, but they are not. When you are being prosecuted, that means that's the process, that's a trial which is going on against you. This trial can have two outcomes. Either you are found guilty, which will lead to punishment, or you are found innocent, that would lead to acquittal. That means you are being declared as an innocent person and you are not going to be punished by the court. So, in the case of double jeopardy in India, a person who has been prosecuted and punished cannot be punished for the same offense again. So, again, for example, if a person A is in jail for killing someone, for murder, for 5 years only, and this clearly does not seem like a sufficient punishment. So, once he's done serving these 5 years, no one can reopen this case against him, because that would mean that he's being subjected to double jeopardy, which will be a violation of his fundamental right. But suppose if this person A was being tried for this murder, but they found him innocent and they acquitted him, and later on they found new evidence against him, now the courts can reopen the case against him, because in the first instance this person was not punished, so double jeopardy will not be applicable here. The third protection, which is granted under this article, is protection against self incrimination. That means, as an accused, you have a right to remain silent. There is no law which will force you to confess your crime. So you don't have to say anything in front of the police which will incriminate you. You can basically maintain your claim of innocence and you don't have to do anything otherwise. Now, the next fundamental right is protection, right of life, right to life and personal liberty. Now, right to life, when I talk about this, it's not just about having animal existence, okay, being allowed to just exist in this country. Right to life is actually a very vast right, which includes things like right to clean water, right to sleep, right to privacy, right to food, right to free and compulsory education till the age of 14, right to minimum wages, right to speedy trial. And this is, along with all the other fundamental rights, this is an ever evolving right, okay? Because with changing society, our needs are changing, our expectations are changing, and law has to be very, very dynamic in nature like that. You can't just set it in stone and say, "Ki, that's it, we have given this to you once, don't ever come back to us again." This is not how it works. So, right to life is an ever evolving right amongst all your other fundamental rights. Now, the next protection which is granted to us is safeguard against arbitrary arrest and detention. The police cannot just go around arresting people because they look like criminals or because they don't like them. This is not how it works. Usually, when do you arrest somebody? When they have already committed a crime or they were in the process of committing a crime. Okay? But sometimes, so this process of just arresting somebody after they have committed a crime is called punitive detention. Okay? There are times when they can be arrested before they have committed a crime, which is called preventive detention. But that only happens when the police has information that, maybe you are up to something which will disrupt the law and order situation of the society, so they can arrest you for a brief period of time. But having said that, just because the police has arrested you doesn't mean that they can just put you behind bars and just forget all about it. Whenever somebody is arrested in India, they have a right to consult a lawyer and to be defended by a lawyer. If they can't afford one should be provided to them. And anybody who has been arrested for any crime and has been detained in custody, has to be produced before the nearest magistrate within a period of 24 hours. Okay, if they are not presented before 24 hours, then basically police is violating the protocol and action can be taken against them. Now, the next fundamental right is right against exploitation. This one obviously means that we have banned and prohibited human trafficking. You can't just sell women, children, and any other human being basically for money, or like basically completely defile their human dignity. It also prohibits people from employing children below the age of 14 in any kind of hazardous profession, like mining, tobacco industry, chemicals, etc. And we have also prohibited uh, bonded labor, which is a version of you can say slavery, when poor people would borrow money from zamindars or rich landlords, money lenders, and they would impose impossible kind of rate of interest on them, and they would make them work for them for free in return. Such kind of labor is not allowed anymore because this is beyond human dignity. You're violating their rights as a human being at every level. So this is clearly prohibited now. Now, the next fundamental right is right to freedom of religion. Now, as you must all know, that India is a secular country. So, what that means is that the government has no say in the religion. Okay, the government has to remain religion neutral. All right. And as citizens, we have a right to practice, promote, and profess our own religion. So let's deal with all of them one by one. By practice, what I mean is that, personally, you can practice any religion that you want to. By profession, what you means is you can teach your religion. Okay, like, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, that, we have schools and colleges which are convent or madrasas or gurukuls. Okay, they are all religion driven. They are owned by private parties or trust funds, and they can practice. They can basically teach their own religious covenants in those schools and colleges, and they also reserve the right to admission. That means if they want to reserve most of the seats for people from their community, they have the right to do so. And by promotion, I mean that, any religion, they can promote their religion by, telling people about it, by, spreading awareness about it. As long as you're doing that, they're doing it in a respectful manner, there is absolutely nothing wrong in it. Now, the next fundamental right is for minorities, which are cultural and educational rights. Now, just like in freedom of religion, how we had the right to practice, profess, and promote our religion, okay? Similarly, there are cultural minorities in this country. Many of them, there are various tribes, and they also have their own culture, education, script, language. So they also get to practice, promote, and profess their culture and tradition and languages. They can open their institutions. They also reserve the right to admission. I hope these basic fundamental rights were clear to all of you. In my next video, I will also inform you about constitutional remedies, which are the writ petitions that you can file against the people, the government specifically, when they have violated your fundamental rights. So I hope you understood these. I hope you found this video useful, and I will I will basically make more videos and help you guys out with the basic concepts of law. Thank you so much.